WLBB, Carrollton, News Talk 1330, FM 106.3.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the WLBB Community Voice program on News Talk 1330 FM 106.3. I'm your host today, Sara Claudia Tillman, and as always, I hope everybody is having a wonderful start to your Wednesday so far. I'm looking forward to today's interview because our guest is somebody who I had the opportunity to hear speak several years back, and the first time I heard Joy Griffin speak, her story touched me at a time in my life where I was really struggling with my blindness and my disability, and her story of how God just has given her so much strength and faith really encouraged me, and I know that is going to encourage everybody who's listening here today. We have a lot to get to because this lady has a lot to share, so we are going to go ahead and jump in and welcome Joy Griffin to Community Voice. Thank you for being here today, Joy.
Thank you. It's my privilege, Sara Claudia. Thanks.
Well, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to our listeners, tell a little bit about who you are and where you're from and what you do.
Okay. Again, it is an honor to be with you because you're such a good communicator, and I'm honored to be invited to Community Voice. I'm a Carroll County girl. I am so thankful. I grew up here in an incredibly loving family on a dairy farm out in the New Hope community, very near John Tanner Park. Mount Zion was my school, and then I went to West Georgia. But I'm so grateful for all the teachers, coaches, scout leaders, family, distant cousins, people that influenced my life in Carroll County. And then I went to seminary in Kentucky at Asbury, and that's where I met my husband, Wes. And now we have two precious children, Hannah and Caleb. Caleb is actually working with 12th Man Productions at Texas A&M, and so that means he helps produce television and video for their athletics. And our Hannah Griffin is here in Carrollton, and she is an artist, a fine artist, and she has a studio just off the square, and we are just honored to have both our children and so blessed. What I do is that I'm a missionary. I work with the International Leadership Institute, and that is training Christian leaders in many different countries of the world.
Wow, and you mentioned your husband. You and your husband actually started the International Leadership Institute, isn't that right?
Yes, ma'am.
That is amazing, yeah. And I know that y'all have served so many places, and I'm excited to get to that part of the interview as well, but I want to jump right in and talk about the story that impacted me so much when I heard it several years back, and that is your story of healing. And it all kind of started with your love for softball. So why don't you take us back to that day and tell us what happened that day and really over the next 18 months.
Okay, I was playing softball through college, and this was just actually after college, and on this women's team, and that particular season we had won every game. So we were in the championship, and it was huge. It was like the last game of the World Series for us because it was for everything. And we actually got to the end of the ninth inning. It was the bottom of the ninth, and our team was up by 1 run. And we had 2 outs on the other team. So we only needed 1 more out to win everything. And but the complication was that there were runners on second and third base. So that meant if anything got through the infield on the ground, that it was over for us because the runners would be going as soon as the ball was thrown. So we are in the field hoping for the easy out, for a strikeout or a pop fly. But the worst thing that could have happened for us happened. It was great for the other team, but the ball was thrown, the runners are going, and the batter just connected with a beautiful line drive, just a bullet headed to the ground. So it was great for them. Looked impossible for us. So I ran as fast as I could, just as others would do, just hoping that I might get to the ball, and dove into the ground with my arm outstretched, just flat on my front, as if I was sliding into first. But the good news is, guess what? I caught the ball. I mean, it was just barely in the end of the glove. It was like a little ice cream cone sticking out, but it was off the ground, so it was a catch and it was a win. So that was the good news. The bad news is that when I hit the ground, even though I landed on my front, the front of my body, it ripped everything away from the bone in my back, and so I was instantly paralyzed.
Oh my goodness. And I mean, I'm always interested to hear when people go through things like this, because when I lost my sight, I don't remember anything about it. But do you remember this vividly? Did you feel it? What was going through your head?
I was aware that I landed, and I'm not even sure that I was aware that I had the ball, because when it hit, then it just snapped. And of course there was excruciating pain, but it was almost like a knockout kind of thing. And I was aware though of people rushing and then taking me to the hospital and to many doctors and specialists for months and months after that.
Oh my goodness. And what did those doctors, what was kind of the prognosis that they gave you?
People tried so hard. It was just, they said it's really fluky, almost like a football kind of injury. But the sort of strange reality is they could never give any kind of medication to go deep enough for the pain. And it was like there was nothing to connect back to. And so the prognosis was that you'll never be able to walk again, and you'll never be able to have babies. On the inside, everything was in the wrong place. So I never had a period during that 18-month time. It was very depressing because I'm an athlete and I'm a doer, and it was hard to just not be able to move. My sweet mama made a pallet just in our living room floor, and somebody had to stay with me, which was depressing because they tried to feed me, but then I couldn't go to the bathroom, so they had to put a bedpan under me. So it was just a very difficult time emotionally and physically. Nothing changed from that second for 18 months. It stayed that way from that moment.
Wow. And I mean, what was your mental state like? I mean, I know you said it was very depressing, and it was a big change from going to running on that softball field to laying on a pallet day in and day out. How did you handle that?
Yeah, well, there was not much I could do except just live in it. But it was just a sad reality of, and actually another part of the story that really is the most important part of the story for me is what God began to do in my heart during that time, because I had become a Christian when I was 12 years old as a little girl. But then through high school and college, I really did read my Bible, and I wanted my life to be like Jesus. And I thought, I know that I asked Jesus in my heart, but I don't see that fruit in my life right now. And I had even gone to different people and said, this was before I was hurt, can you help me? But here's what the Lord did. After about 1 year of being hurt there, in my little country church, New Hope, the pastor changed. He was actually a Carroll County man also, and had been off preaching throughout his career, but when he retired, he moved back to this community. So he came and was willing to serve our church as a retired pastor, and he is who helped me so much spiritually about what it means to surrender everything to God and for him to be in complete Lord of our lives, or control of our lives. So that part is what happened during the middle of while I was laying there. So the last few months were actually exciting spiritually. It didn't change physically, but it was exciting to know that maybe there was a possibility that my life could be changed.
I love that, and I want to pause right there and leave people on a little cliffhanger as we go to this first break to hear from our sponsors, and when we come back, we'll hear the rest of this amazing story from Joy Griffin. Y'all stay tuned.
As a graduate of Oak Mountain Academy, I found that my experience on the mountain prepared me beyond all expectations. As a junior at Auburn University, I approached my studies with great confidence thanks to what I learned at OMA. When I think back on my time on the mountain, I think of my teachers. Their genuine love and concern for me as a student was always evident, and now, as an adult, I still foster those relationships. I'm Carly Robinson, an Oak Mountain Academy alum. Visit oakmountain.us to see how you can offer your child an amazing opportunity to be a warrior.
Travel, get-togethers, Sunday morning worship. COVID-19 has almost put a stop to our way of life. Vaccination is our best shot at getting back to normal. The COVID-19 vaccine is based on more than a decade of research. Trials show it's safe and can provide up to 95% protection when you've received both doses. Tanner is committed to making the vaccine as widely available as possible, giving you a shot at getting back to life. Until then, keep wearing your mask, washing your hands, and avoid gatherings. Learn more and get updates at tanner.org/vaccine.
All right, welcome back to the WLBB Community Voice program here on News Talk 1330 FM 106.3. Sara Claudia Tillman here with our wonderful guest, Joy Griffin, who is telling her story of when she was younger being suddenly paralyzed. And we've gotten to the point in the story, it was about a year later, and you were beginning to kind of have this spiritual awakening.
Yes, ma'am. And so day after day, this precious pastor came. I'm laying on the floor, and he was older, so he sat in the chair. But he opened the Bible to me and really shared God's Word with me. So the good part of the story is that I'll tell you the day. It was July 16th. Was a really precious day for me because I came to the realization that I understood what he was saying about surrendering everything to the Lord and giving him my whole life. So even though I couldn't physically move, I was able to pray, of course. And so my heart was just radically changed when I did pray that prayer. And that's what I believe maybe God gave me the then later healing that I'll share about, just for the opportunity to share. But after that, even though I couldn't move physically, it's like in my heart I was bouncing off the walls. And I wanted everybody to know what God had done in my heart. Well, in Carroll County, as most of us know, there are still 3 camp meetings that take place in the summertime. And so my family always attended those. Obviously, I could not go at that point, but my parents brought the newspaper and held it upside down for me, laying on the floor, to show me the advertisements that the paper had. And I found that a friend of mine, somebody I'd been in school with, was going to be the youth director at one of the camp meetings over at Union, past Mount Zion. And I said, I really want to get to him and his wife and tell them what Jesus has done in my heart. So my parents picked me up, laid me in the back seat of the car, and drove me there, and then laid me on the little cement porch of the little preacher's cabin. It was where they would, it's just a place to sleep for a week. And in the background, you could hear all the sleeping bags coming in, the noise and excitement. People are excited to come to camp. So I'm laying there sharing with my friend, and then a car pulled up, literally just a few feet away, and this was an older man I had never seen before. His name was Tom Barrett, and he's from South Georgia, and he was going to be the evangelist for the week. So to make that short, he looked at me and saw that I couldn't move, and then the first question he said was, well, you're not laying there for the fun of it, are you? At first I thought, are you crazy? Of course not. But in fairness, I thought later, he did not see them bring me. He did not know what had happened. So my friend explained. Then the next words out of his mouth are what shocked me, basically, because I thought he would respond like other people do, saying, oh, I'm so sorry, too bad this has happened to you, because it looks impossible for there to be a change, and people don't know what to say. But instead of that, very gently, not forceful at all or loud, but very kind, he said, well, have you ever asked God to heal you? And Sara Claudia, I'm so embarrassed, but first I thought, well, maybe he's just sort of a quack. Like, where did this come from? But then he dispelled that before I could even respond, because I want to make sure I say this for everybody. I thought it was so wise of him. He said, honey, I do not understand healing, and I don't understand why some people are healed and some are not. And he said, I don't understand why we come to church and pray for people to be healed and maybe they die next week. He said, I don't understand that because we're human. He said, but I just know that in the Bible it says to call on God and to ask, and I'm willing to ask for you. And I was so grateful for that wise, he was just sharing with me, but it's been incredible advice for me now praying for other people, because he was just honest. And when he said those words, I thought, he's real. He's not a nut or a quack. He's honest, because nobody knows. And so to try to make that short, he actually prayed just a sweet, gentle prayer for me. I'm confessing I did not have expectations. In my heart, I thought, I'll never be able to sit in a chair again. I can't run down the road. I'll never be able to walk down the aisle and get married. I'll never be able to hold a real baby like we do as a little girl playing with a baby doll. There was just no hope of that for me. And so I don't think that I had expectations, but he was very kind, again, just soft-spoken. And I said, of course I want you to pray. And he was willing to pray. And during that prayer, I was aware that suddenly my back didn't have that sharp pain. There was just a numbness. And I almost thought that I was asleep and dreaming. It was so good to not hurt. I just thought, I hope nobody ever touches me so I won't wake up, because it was wonderful to be relieved from the pain. But then when he finished praying, I don't know what he said. I assume he finally said amen, and then he said, did anything happen? And I said, I don't know. Then he said, well, can you move anything? And so Sara, Claudia, I don't know why I didn't do something small like wiggle my toes. I just literally jumped up and I did jumping jacks and I ran in place and I did a back bend. It was like a gymnastics routine. I did all the things I used to do. Jesus really just healed me instantly, which I always say is very, I believe, rare. I believe the normal way God heals is gradual. And I believe he uses doctors and medical people to diagnose, and then the chemical people to put together the chemicals for Advil and Tylenol and aspirin and chemotherapy to try to help. But we don't always give God the credit for that. But mine was just a real instant miracle, and I'm so thankful for that. Many people came to the Lord because of it, because people can say, well, sometimes on television I sort of think that's fake or it looks a little weird, but people here knew me and they could see me laying one day and the next day I really can run around and do anything. So it gave an opportunity to share about who Jesus is to so many, and I'm so thankful for that, because that's allowed me to be here with you today physically, as well as be all over the world in ministry, as well as have our two precious miracle children. So I am so grateful.
It's amazing to me. Like, just hearing the story again gives me chills all over. And of course the healing part is amazing, but I think even more, what touches me even more about the story is that you had the faith to go share even before you were healed. You wanted to share what God had done in your heart and not to your physical body.
Yes.
And I think that so many years ago when I heard you speak, that is what kind of encouraged me, because I thought, okay,
good.
God has touched my heart as well. He hasn't healed my eyes, but he's done so much work in my heart, and that's worth sharing.
Yes.
So,
and I keep praying for your eyes. Like, I don't know why that hasn't happened yet, but who knows? Maybe it's because of all the opportunities you have right now, and that might change in the future. And that's how I feel. So I'm not everybody has blinded eyes or maybe a bad back, but according to the Bible, all of us have a heart like ours, and so that's where I believe God wants to work.
Exactly. And I've always said, I think healing can come in different forms.
Yes.
And I think that's where God likes to start is healing us spiritually and healing our hearts and opening it up to him. And I love that part of your story, but I love the part where you said you just got up and started doing back bends, and I'm sure that was such a moment of elation for you and your family and everybody around.
Yes, absolutely. The next morning, I stuck on my shoes and ran a couple of miles. And the next week, I actually went to Coweta County down in Noonan and ran in a 10K race. It was like nothing ever happened. Oh, but I left the part out. This is important. Just a few hours after he prayed for me, I started my period again, which most girls would say, well, yippee. But I didn't think a lot about it at the time. But then after I met my husband, of course, I was grateful that we have been able to have children.
Amazing.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, we are going to take another break, but when we come back, we're going to hear about your latest endeavor, your book, which is out now and soon to come out on audio. So everybody stay tuned to hear more about that from Joy Griffin.
Travel, get-togethers, Sunday morning worship. COVID-19 has almost put a stop to our way of life. Vaccination is our best shot at getting back to normal. The COVID-19 vaccine is based on more than a decade of research. Trials show it's safe and can provide up to 95% protection when you've received both doses. Tanner is committed to making the vaccine as widely available as possible, giving you a shot at getting back to life. Until then, keep wearing your mask, washing your hands, and avoid gatherings. Learn more and get updates at tanner.org/vaccine.
At Oak Mountain Academy, our daily schedule includes convocation, prayer, and the Pledge of Allegiance. By doing so, we build a family-like community where all students grow and flourish and personal faith is encouraged. Through community service and a historical approach to biblical study, our students are taught the value of the warrior way, honesty, respect, and responsibility. Oak Mountain Academy. We are a family creating legacies. To learn more, visit oakmountain.us.
Welcome back to the WLBB Community Voice program here on News Talk 1330 FM 106.3. Sara Claudia Tillman here with Joy Griffin, who just gave her amazing story of how God not only healed her physically from paralysis for 18 months, but also healed her spiritually and really opened her up to what all God could do. And after that, so after you were healed and you went off and ran your 10K and got married and had kids and all of that, you became a missionary. And since then, you've really run all over the world.
Yeah. Yes, it's we stand in awe at what God is doing and has done. So it's just amazing. I'm just a little farm girl from Carroll County, but the Lord has allowed me to be in places that He put in my heart when I was a little girl about going and telling others about Jesus.
And you've been to, I think you said, over 80 countries?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Wow.
and the ministry now is in over 100. We train, the goal is to accelerate the spread of the gospel by training leaders, so that then in their mother tongue, they get to their tribe or city or village and multiply what they've learned so that it's culturally relevant. So we're amazed, and we're so grateful to the Lord.
So I know you've been to so many places. What's maybe one of your favorite places you've gotten to travel to?
Oh, see, that's so hard because I love everywhere. I love the jungle. I love primitive areas. I love unreached places. Many places in Africa that have not heard the gospel. Oh my goodness, India, even Europe, places that were former Soviet places that did not have the opportunity. China, underground, persecuted communist places are where I really feel called. And so it's so hard. I'm sorry to pick just one place, but I'm thankful for the opportunity to go to many.
And I know from traveling to all these places, you have so many stories, and you've kind of compiled these into a book. So tell us about your book and how that kind of came to be.
Okay, thank you. Well, it is entitled Jumping for Joy, and our daughter Hannah actually helped me think of that title because I had thought of other things, but she said, Mama, Jesus healed you, and now you can run and jump, so you could be jumping for joy. And she actually did the painting of the cover. I was actually in Patagonia on top of a mountain I had climbed and was jumping, so that's the cover. But it shares my personal testimony and then many stories from all over the world, miraculous things that God has done. It tells about us going to the country of Estonia as missionaries when our children were very small and starting a seminary, which then actually helped in our hearts to birth. We saw the need for training. Christian leaders around the world were saying, equip us and we'll reach our people with the gospel. And so then the rest of the story is just a compilation of many different just miraculous things God has done in different parts of the world.
I know I can't wait to read it. And when I posted on social media that you would be interviewed today, I had so many people commenting and saying how much they loved the book and how it was changed their life and just changed how they looked at the world. So I think it's really gonna inspire a lot of people. And I know if you got a little tease from Joy's testimony today, definitely go out and check out this book and read, because she has so much more she could add.
Thank you. That's true.
So what is kind of the biggest message you want people to get from your book?
You know, if I said just one word, I think it would be hope. But about the power of God, the faithfulness of God to do the impossible. All the situations and the circumstances in the book just look impossible, just like my physical body looked impossible to ever move again. And it's just filled with again, the supernatural hand of God moving. And so I would want people to take away that God is so faithful. And I also want people to take away, I try to say this over and over in the book, other people that are here, maybe stateside, that are praying for me and or other missionaries are so critical, because we are just an extension of others that are holding the rope, I like to say, that, holding on to us through prayer, because there's no way things would happen without that intercession, and that we're all just together. And it's just amazing to me when there are circumstances and situations around us, even here in this country, just in our own personal lives, to know that that God is right there, longs to be right with us, but to help us through whatever that is. So I think the word hope would be what I would say.
And that's something we definitely need today in this world, a lot more hope, and to find it in the Lord. So tell our listeners where they can go pick up your book, because I know they're all anxious to get their own copy.
Okay, thank you. Well, people can contact me on Facebook. I'm Joy Smith Griffin. They also can go to joygriffin.org, and that way they can click and pay by PayPal, but also they can get the Kindle version if they would like. And as you said, I recorded yesterday and will finish later this week recording for Audible so that people can get it on tape. So that's in the process. Another Horton's bookstore is carrying it, on the square. People can contact our office, International Leadership Institute, if those others did not work, to contact me directly. So I'm excited.
Lots of ways to get your hands on this book, and I'm definitely excited to listen to it when it comes out on Audible. So as we kind of close out this interview, I want to ask one more question, which probably is going to be a hard one to answer, but you've been through so many scary situations and uncertain times, from your paralysis to, I know, a lot of maybe unsettling situations overseas. What's kind of the biggest lesson you've learned through all of it?
I know this sounds like I'm repeating myself, but it's true. It's just God's faithfulness and His character and who He is, and His longing for His presence just to be in my heart and with me, no matter where I am in a scary situation, surrounded with danger and fear, maybe, and so.
Yeah, and He is faithful, and I know that's...
And He's real. It's very real, and He longs to help us. When we're available, that's when I see God do miraculous things, even if the situation looks impossible. So I want people to be bold, and obey Him in what He's saying for us to do, and then we get to see incredible miracle things that I try to share in the book.
Yes, and you're such a living testament of that, being obedient to going and sharing what God had done in your heart, and then I don't like to use the word reward, but He almost showed His glory through healing you that day, and it's amazing.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say quickly too, a reason that I did it is that I want my children. The book is that people had asked me for years, but I want my children, Hannah and Caleb, to remember and know God's faithfulness. But also, I've been in so many situations that you were just mentioned, when I did not know what to do, and I didn't have any English, so I was just saying, Jesus, you've got to help me. And maybe I remembered something someone had said or I had read, and just for example, with demon possession, someplace I didn't know, I had no clue how to begin. And so I thought maybe through this book, it could encourage others down the road, whatever that means, here or there.
Well, I love it. I know I can't wait to read it. I know our listeners can't wait to read it. And I want to thank you so much for being here today. And remember, you can go to Joy's website. You can go to her Facebook page, go to Horton's and pick up her book. And soon you will be able to get it on Audible and listen to it as you are driving to work, cleaning the house, whatever you want to do. And get some hope and inspiration in every little part of your day. So thank you again for being here. And I want to thank everybody who tuned in and listened. And be sure to catch me again next month on Community Voice to hear another inspiring and encouraging interview. Thank you, and everybody have a wonderful Wednesday and rest of your week, and we'll see you next time.